Imagine this. You build a life with someone 5 years of love, commitment and plans for the future. You have the fairy tale wedding, the vows, the house with the white picket fence. Then, 2 months into marriage, she leaves. Claire told Ethan it was her father. He was sick, dying in another state. She needed to be there for him. And Ethan, he believed her. He sent her off with a hug and whispered, "Call me if you need anything." But weeks passed. Her calls became short, her voice distant. And then the bombshell dropped. A friend sent Ethan a video. Claire, dancing in a wedding dress, laughing in the arms of another man. Lucas, her ex. And that wasn't the end of it. Claire hadn't just reconnected, she'd married Lucas in a courthouse ceremony, thinking Ethan would never find out. Turns out Lucas wasn't just an ex. He was a scammer using Claire as a pawn to cover up his fraud charges. And when Claire realized the mess she was in, she panicked. She came back pregnant. Now, Ethan has to decide, is the baby his? And if it is, can he ever trust her again? Ethan wasn't expecting a knock at his door that evening. It had been 2 months since Claire left. 2 months of hollow silences, unanswered texts, and the sickening feeling that everything they'd built had been a lie. When he opened the door, it was like time stopped. There she stood, Claire. Her hair was messy, pulled back in a loose bun, her eyes red and swollen. She looked nothing like the woman he'd married, but it wasn't the tears or the exhaustion that hit him hardest. It was the curve of her belly, pregnant. She held a small overnight bag in one hand, her other resting on her stomach, like she was protecting it. "Ethan," she whispered, voice shaking. I didn't know where else to go." He stood frozen, a million questions crashing through his mind. Was the baby his? Was she here because she regretted leaving? Or because her other life had imploded? He thought of the video, Claire in a white dress twirling in Lucas's arms, like she didn't have a care in the world. Now she was back on his doorstep, tears streaming down her face. And for the first time in weeks, Ethan felt something sharper than heartbreak. He felt angry. There was a time when Ethan thought he and Claire had it all. They met at a friend's rooftop party, one of those casual summer nights that wasn't supposed to be memorable. But the second he saw her, something just clicked. Claire had this effortless charm, the kind of girl who could make you feel like the only person in the room. They ended up talking for hours that night about everything and nothing, laughing over shared stories and stupid inside jokes that no one else understood. From there, it was like they were unstoppable. They traveled together, binge-watched bad reality TV shows, stayed up late dreaming about their future. She'd tease him about his stubbornness. He'd roll his eyes at her overly organized planner, but they always found their way back to each other. 5 years in, Ethan knew he was ready. The proposal was a little clumsy. He almost dropped the ring in a lake during a weekend cabin trip, but it didn't matter. Claire said yes, with tears in her eyes, hugging him so tight he thought she might never let go. Their wedding was straight out of a magazine, an old vineyard, strings of lights, friends and family everywhere. Claire looked like something out of a dream, and Ethan felt like the luckiest guy alive. They had plans. A house in the suburbs, 2 kids, maybe 3, a golden retriever, a lifetime of inside jokes and slow dances in the kitchen. It was supposed to be forever, but forever, as it turns out, can fall apart in an instant. The first cracks didn't explode. They crept in slow and subtle, like hairline fractures no one notices, until the whole thing collapses. After their wedding, Ethan and Claire seemed like the same inseparable couple they'd always been. They still cooked dinner together, still binge-watched their favorite trashy reality shows, still laughed at their own inside jokes. But a few weeks in, Claire started pulling away just a little at first. It began with a text. "Hey, Dad's not doing well. I might need to spend a few days back home." Ethan understood. Her dad had always been a soft spot, and family came first. He told her to go to take care of whatever she needed. The first trip was a weekend, then it became a week. Then she'd stay for longer stretches, claiming the situation was worse than she thought. She started skipping their regular FaceTime calls, saying she was too tired after caring for her dad. Ethan didn't question it, at least not at first. He was trying to be the supportive husband, the guy who stood by his wife no matter what. But something felt off. When she did call, her voice sounded rehearsed. Her answers clipped as if she was reading from a script, and every time he offered to drive down to help, she shut him down. "No, Ethan, it's too much for you. I've got this. Just focus on work." He wanted to trust her, but the unease grew. Then came the kicker. A friend texted him late one night, almost as an afterthought. "Dude, is Claire in Chicago this weekend? Saw someone who looked just like her at a wedding downtown." Ethan's stomach dropped. He brushed it off at first, until a second friend sent a short video clip. It was Claire, spinning on a dance floor laughing in the arms of a man he didn't know. And that's when Ethan's world cracked wide open. Ethan stared at the video like it couldn't possibly be real. Claire, his wife, the woman who swore she was caring for her dying father, was laughing, spinning under twinkle lights, dancing with a man Ethan had never met. Her smile was wide, carefree. Her hands rested comfortably on his chest. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the ease of it, the way she looked at this man like she used to look at him. The man's name, as he soon learned, was Lucas. A mutual friend filled in the details without knowing the storm it would cause. "Yeah, Lucas is back in Chicago. He's been dating some girl from out of town. Claire, I think, they're already talking about getting married." Married. The word hit Ethan like a brick to the chest. He tried to keep it together, but his hands were shaking when he finally called Claire. Her voice was calm at first, casual, like she wasn't hiding a secret that could tear a man in half. But the second he mentioned the video of the wedding, the name Lucas, her tone changed. Silence. Then a long, shaky breath. "Ethan, it's not what you think." He waited, his heart pounding in his ears. "Lucas and we got married at the courthouse. It was complicated. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I was confused. You what?" Ethan's voice cracked loud and raw. Her voice wavered. "I thought you wouldn't find out. I thought maybe this was my second chance. With him." Second chance, Ethan felt like he'd been sucker punched. And then came the worst part. She didn't sound sorry. Not really, not until he asked the question that had been clawing at his mind since he saw the video. "Claire, is the baby his or mine?" Her silence was louder than any answer. For days after the call, Ethan felt like he was moving through a fog. He went to work, answered emails, even smiled at coworkers when they passed his desk. But inside, he was hollow. Everywhere he turned, reminders of Claire were waiting. The mug she always used for tea sat untouched on the kitchen counter, her shoes still by the door. Their wedding photo, half buried under a stack of unopened mail, felt like a cruel joke. He tried to make sense of it. Claire hadn't just lied, she had built a whole other life. She had married another man. And now she was pregnant. Ethan didn't know if the child was his, and the not knowing was eating him alive. He tried calling Claire once just to ask. She didn't answer. When he texted, she sent a single message: "I'm sorry, I just need space." Space. She had taken everything, his trust, his future, his peace of mind, and now she needed space. The anger simmered beneath the surface, but the hurt drowned it out. He spent nights on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the last few months, wondering how he missed the signs. His friends tried to pull him out of it. Phil showed up with pizza and beer. His brother suggested a weekend trip to clear his head. But nothing helped. It all came crashing down one Saturday morning when Ethan got a letter in the mail. It was from a lawyer, Claire's lawyer. She wanted an annulment, not a conversation, not closure, just a signature like erasing their marriage was as easy as tearing a page from a book. That was the breaking point. Ethan sat there in his kitchen, the letter trembling in his hands, and realized he had been living in a fantasy. The woman he loved wasn't coming back. She had already left long before the wedding, long before the baby, and now it was time for him to leave too. Not physically, but emotionally, mentally, in every way that mattered. He poured himself a drink, raised it to the empty room, and whispered, "Here's to rock bottom." Because the only thing left to do now was rebuild. Ethan was starting to accept that Claire was gone for good, until the text came through. It was late past midnight, and the message was just 2 words. "I'm sorry." At first he didn't respond, but the next day she called. Her voice was shaky, her words barely holding together. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." The story spilled out in pieces, frantic, breathless. Claire admitted it. The sick father had been a cover. Lucas had been the real reason she left. After reconnecting at a mutual friend's wedding, Claire got swept up in the fantasy. Lucas said all the right things, promised her a fresh start, a new life, said she was his missing piece, and Claire, in her own words, wanted to believe him. So she did. She followed him to Chicago, said yes when he proposed in a courthouse wedding, just weeks after leaving Ethan. But the dream didn't last long. Claire soon realized Lucas wasn't who he claimed to be. She noticed the late-night calls, the whispered arguments, the mysterious meetings. Turns out Lucas was under federal investigation, embezzlement, fraud, the works. He wasn't building a life with her. He was using her. And when the feds started closing in, Lucas bailed left, Claire behind, holding the bag. Now she was scared, alone, and then the real gut punch. She was pregnant. At least she thought she was. The timing was a mess. She wasn't sure if it was Lucas's or Ethan's. That's why she was standing at Ethan's door days later, her eyes red and swollen, holding a manila envelope with shaking hands. "I got a paternity test," she whispered. "I thought you had a right to know." Ethan took the envelope, his heart hammering in his chest. The truth lay inside one thin sheet of paper that could change everything. He hadn't opened it yet, but he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about a baby. It was about trust, about betrayal, about who he was going to be, a man who let his life be defined by someone else's choices, or a man who took control and rewrote the story. Ethan stared at the envelope sitting on his kitchen counter like it was a live grenade. He hadn't opened it yet, not because he didn't want to know, but because he wasn't sure if he could handle the answer. Claire sat across from him, eyes-rimmed red hands trembling in her lap. She kept glancing at the envelope, then back at him, like she wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. Finally, he broke the silence. "Is there anything you want to tell me before I open this?" Claire swallowed hard. "Ethan, I know I messed up. I was lost. Lucas made me feel like I was important, like I mattered. And I thought you and I, after the wedding, after everything I thought, maybe we weren't as strong as I believed." Her voice cracked, and she leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "But I swear if this baby is yours, I want to make it right. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, Ethan, I need you to know I didn't mean to hurt you." Ethan sat back in his chair, the weight of it all pressing down on him. Did she even hear herself? "You didn't mean to hurt me," he repeated, his voice low, steady. "Claire, you married another man. You built a whole new life while I sat here waiting, believing every lie you fed me." She started to cry, but this time he didn't reach for her. Instead, he picked up the envelope, slowly, deliberately. When he tore it open, the paper inside seemed to hum in his hands. One line stood out in bold black ink: probability of paternity, 99.9%. Ethan exhaled sharply, a mixture of relief and dread crashing over him. The baby was his. Claire looked up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Ethan, please, we can fix this. We can co-parent. Maybe even know." His voice was firm, final. "I'll be a father to this child, but not to you." Her face crumpled, but he didn't waver. "I'm not your backup plan, Claire. I won't be the man you crawl back to when your other life falls apart. I'll be there for my child, but that's where this ends." He stood, grabbed his keys, and walked toward the door. For the first time in months, he felt like he could breathe. The next few days felt like a reset. Ethan wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. He wasn't waiting for Claire to change or for some magical resolution to make everything okay. He had clarity now, and with it came a strange sense of peace. But Claire wasn't done. She showed up at his door again, this time, in the middle of the afternoon, holding a stack of papers in one hand and a pleading look in her eyes. "Ethan, I need you to listen." He didn't invite her in. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, blocking the entrance like a bouncer at a club. She launched into a desperate monologue: how Lucas had left her penniless, how she was being investigated by the authorities because her name was on fraudulent paperwork Lucas had her sign, how she was scared of losing everything, her freedom, her reputation, her child. "I didn't know," she said, voice cracking. "I didn't know he was lying. I thought Ethan cut her off. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You didn't question the story because it was easier to believe it, easier than staying and working through the hard stuff with me." Claire's lip quivered. She reached for him, but he stepped back. "Don't," he said. "Don't try to make this about us. This is your mess to clean up, Claire." Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time Ethan felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a cold, hard line between them. He let the silence sit before delivering the final blow. "I'll do right by my kid. I'll be there at every doctor's appointment, every school play, every soccer game. But you were done. You made your choice when you walked out that door." Claire opened her mouth to argue, but he raised a hand, stopping her. Flat. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your hero. And I'm damn sure not your backup plan. The words hit like a sledgehammer. Claire stood, frozen tears streaking down her cheeks, the papers in her hand crumpling. Ethan stepped back inside and closed the door. For the first time in months, the air felt lighter. And in that quiet, Ethan knew he wasn't the victim anymore. He was the man who survived the storm and walked away stronger. The first morning after it all ended, Ethan woke up before the sun, the house quiet in a way that didn't feel suffocating anymore. It wasn't the emptiness of loss, it was the space of possibility. He brewed coffee, fed Max, and sat on the porch watching the sky shift from gray to soft pink. For the first time in months, he wasn't waiting for a call that might never come, or a knock on the door that would twist his stomach into knots. He was free. It wasn't easy. Some days the memories crept back: the wedding, the plans, the way she used to laugh at his bad jokes. But he didn't drown in them anymore. He started going back to the gym, lifting heavier than before. He took on extra projects at work, and his boss noticed. His friends Phil, his brother, kept checking in, and for once Ethan let them in instead of brushing them off. He even started meeting new people, not dating, not yet, just talking, laughing, remembering what it felt like to be himself again, without the weight of someone else's choices dragging him down. Ethan knew the road ahead wouldn't be simple. There was still the baby, still the mess Claire had left behind. But one thing was certain: he wasn't broken. He was rebuilding. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about boundaries, about knowing when to fight for someone, and when to walk away. Ethan learned the hard way that love isn't a one-way street. It's not about waiting for someone to choose you after they've already left. It's about standing your ground even when it hurts and knowing your worth. Because at the end of the day, no one else can define your story but you. So here's the question for you. If someone you loved left you for another life and then came back begging for forgiveness, would you take them back? Or would you close the door for good, like Ethan did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and hit that bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next one.